Hello, my name is Tony Litt. I'm the MD of Sunrise Radio, and it's my immense pleasure to bring you the official Sunrise Radio podcast. We are the #1 commercial Asian station in the United Kingdom, with many firsts to our name, and we continue to be the voice of British Asians who have given us their love and loyalty over 30 years. It's a legacy we cherish and a responsibility that we don't take lightly. Our aim has always been to entertain the listeners with the best of Bollywood and Bhangra, while also addressing their concerns. A real voice for the community, a vibrant community, and a great nation. We are proud to be British and Asian. This podcast is a compilation of some of the things we do on the station, with a stellar lineup of presenters who each have their own personality and style. It's entertaining, informative, engaging, and we hope you will enjoy it here as a podcast if you are unable to tune in to the radio. Don't forget to subscribe and tell your family and friends about this podcast, and do leave us a comment on what you think. We'd love to hear from you. All the best always. Team Sunrise.
On Sunrise Radio, we've partnered with Macmillan Cancer Support for a series of interviews highlighting their Let's Talk About Cancer campaign. Joining me on the podcast today, Allia Amjad. It gives me great pleasure to say a big warm welcome to Allia Amjad as part of our Let's Talk About Cancer campaign with Macmillan Cancer Support. Now, Allia is from Leicester. She was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2019. She's a former primary school teacher. She had a lumpectomy and some lymph nodes removed, followed by 10 months of intense chemotherapy and radiotherapy. After sharing part of her own cancer experience on Instagram, Allia was inundated with questions from strangers who felt unable to talk to family and friends about their diagnosis. And as a result, after recovering from cancer, Allia set up a support group. This was funded by Macmillan, where Southeast Asian women in Leicester can come together to talk about their cancer experience and get important information and, of course, support each other. She was shortlisted for a British Muslim Award earlier this year for her work with Macmillan, and this, of course, has helped the community tremendously. Allia, thank you so much for your time. Welcome to Sunrise.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
My first and most obvious question, when and how did you discover you had breast cancer?
Well, I found a lump. I was in the shower. I felt something unusual. At first, I didn't really think there was much to it. But then several weeks later, it was still there. It wasn't going away. And then I decided to call in and make an appointment at the GP. And I went to see the GP, and that was it, basically. Went to the GP, and GP referred me pretty much straight away to the breast clinic here in Leicester. We have got a lovely facility, so she sent me there, and that's it.
Did you find it easy talking to family and friends about your diagnosis?
No, nothing can prepare you to hear those words. When somebody says you've got cancer, I think typically you think of the worst case scenario, and it's going to be difficult to see a future. So no, there wasn't any preparation for that. The strangest thing is you think, how am I going to tell my family? That's the thing.
Yeah.
You start thinking about all the different people that you've got to tell. Luckily my husband, he'd come with me to the appointment. So he was with me already. But you start thinking, how am I going to tell my children? How am I going to tell my parents?
Tell us a bit about the work that you've been doing with Macmillan Cancer Support.
So after I finished active treatment, so I finished chemotherapy, finished radiotherapy. It took me a while to recover from that because recovery can take some time. So it took me some time to recover. When I was in a good headspace, I'd already thought that I was going to do something in the community, because when I was going through cancer, I turned to, now you can imagine we'd gone into COVID now, and obviously the world was shut down. So I went online to have a look, is there anybody talking about cancer, especially from like the South Asian community? Are there any women in particular talking about breast cancer, to be more specific, but I hardly found anything. So I started Instagramming parts of my story and just writing bits and bobs, like going for appointments or discovering that I've got cancer or the kind of ups and downs of treatment and stuff like that. So, and then slowly there were women who were reaching out to me because they'd had similar experiences. And funnily enough, I found that I created my own kind of online community where people were reaching out. We were kind of just like almost supporting each other to get through this. And then after all of that, I'd already decided that I definitely wanted something in the community after COVID was over and everything. And then I reached out to Macmillan, and they were amazing. They gave me a support grant and helped me to set up a support group for South Asian women, actually any women affected by cancer in our community, where we can just come along and talk to people who understand and have been through the process. And also, cancer doesn't just affect the individual who's going through it. It actually also affects much wider. It affects their family, it affects their relatives, their friends.
Absolutely.
So this is a group for people to come along and share any kinds of, like, for example, how do you talk to somebody who's got cancer? How do you, just things like this. So I'm not a cancer expert, but what I have got is lived experience.
Allia, what would your message be to others who may have been diagnosed with cancer or maybe experiencing some cancer symptoms listening to our conversation right now? What would you say to them?
Oh, you absolutely have to make sure you go and see your GP, because cancer prognosis actually can be very good if you catch it in early stages. So we mustn't be frightened. I think often, especially in our Asian community, we can get very frightened just even hearing the word cancer. And actually the prognosis can be very good as long as you're willing to make those steps, take the steps to go and see your GP, take somebody with you. And especially if you're nervous, make sure that you definitely see your doctor, because the process from going to the GP to then getting, if there is a diagnosis, it's very, very quick, and they are very lovely. They really do take care of you. But I would always advise, take somebody with you who can help you to understand, because sometimes when you hear the words that you've got cancer, it's very difficult to process. You need somebody there with you who can maybe help you to understand, or maybe, myself included, I kind of just went numb when they told me that I had cancer. So
I can imagine.
So I would say absolutely go and see your GP. And also, if you have had a cancer diagnosis, please do reach out to Macmillan, because they offer some amazing support services out there. You can even ring the helpline, and actually if you can't speak English, you can even say things like Urdu, and then you'll be able to speak to the message. You'd get the messages in Urdu or Hindi, or you know what I mean?
Allia, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. I wish you the best of health. Macmillan, as Allia pointed out, is the charity to turn to if you have questions about cancer. It is important to have open conversations about cancer and seek support. It's normal to feel anxious or worried about cancer, but talking about it might help. Visit the Macmillan website for any questions about cancer. macmillan.org.uk/sunrise. Allia, thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
You can catch Shabnam Sahi, the ultimate storyteller, weekdays 9 a.m. till 12 noon.